We're on a tangent.
Yes. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Episode Club. Today or tonight, and forever, we've been talking about Harlots, but tonight we're specifically going to talk about season 2, episodes 5 and 6. And oh my, were these two episodes really, like, I know we like to do these episodes two at a time, but I think these two episodes specifically, like, I think a few in season 1, work perfectly to put together. So before we talk about that, let's talk about the ladies on the panel. It's a full-on ladies night edition of Harlots. I think this is probably the first time that we've done this. So ladies, whoever wants to introduce yourself.
Well, hello everyone. It's me, Erin. I have my avatar on tonight, so I hope you enjoy the beautiful shot of Margaret Wells. I know some people will love it more than others. Um, but yeah, I'm happy to be here with you guys and happy to be back after a little break last week and to be discussing these pretty exciting episodes. So yeah. And Kaci's here tonight. If she's here. Are you there, Kaci?
Hi. Sorry, I glitched. We're starting out early. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, we're happy to have you. I'm happy to have a ladies' night. You know, we're gonna have fun.
Yeah.
We've
drink our gin and shoot the shit.
I did forget the gin.
I'm drinking coffee, honestly.
You're Nancy, and you forgot the gin. What is this? But yeah, we've had a few all ladies editions of Episode Club. Most of them, I think, were when we were doing Game of Thrones, but that was also a topic of conversation pre-stream. And when you talk about Game of Thrones, it's always a thing that goes on way too long. But we got some people in the chat joining us. We have Danny McKay, Sasake, Otila Angel, and Peter Griffin, as well as two ladies that I don't know why they're here. Their name is House Lorebridge and another name Braavosi Broadcast. I don't know who these people are, but we should be nice to them, or or we also say be mean to them also too at the same time.
They're lurking.
But, yeah. So how I kind of went through this is kind of who do we really want to talk about? Because in episode 5 we get a lot of setup. We get Charlotte basically working alongside Quigley to effectively show her the, I guess, last ropes of how Quigley operates, which is buying a virgin, if we want to start with that, even though it's a really dark topic. But we can kind of do that and kind of how that story thread plays out between the two episodes, I guess. Yeah, what do you kind of think about that whole Charlotte storyline?
Yeah, that seems to like consume a lot of episode 5, where basically Mrs. Quigley's in a mighty fine mood because she's been having her time with the judge or the justice. Yeah, that's how that episode starts out. And so she's just, having her morning breakfast, really just getting her fill. And they decide that they're going to do the festival, the Vesta festival, or, the sacrifice to the goddess Vesta or what have you.
Something like that.
Yeah. And part of that is sacrificing a virgin. So it's something they do once a year. And they decide that Charlotte's she's going to play the goddess. And then Quigley, she needs to find herself a virgin to sacrifice. And so all the girls are kind of like uncomfortable when she says that, because she just kind of gets up and like goes in the other room. So Charlotte decides that, she's like, all right, show me, she figures out this is like going to be a good opportunity to kind of put her in the, you know, catch the viper or whatever. And so yeah, she asks her to show her how to acquire a virgin. And Quigley's like, I don't know if you have the stomach for it, but she's like, yeah, I want to be as good as you are, kind of thing, just really playing it hard. So yeah, it's a little scary.
Mm-hmm.
Just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you almost think in this that it's like it's that last straw to know how to break Quigley, like because she's kind of went through all of the elements of, oh, this is how she does things, this is how she does this, that, the other thing, but the last thing is like because of the other characters have been saying all along is that she's kidnaps girls and she like leaves them to do what she does with them. So it's like having a first-hand account of that and giving that kind of what's like being there to do it also at the same time also makes you wonder if this is something that can the character of Charlotte be able to do this? And
Yeah.
we obviously see that she can later on. Like she obviously gets the girl and everything, but it's near the end of the episode where all of the pieces start to kind of come together for at least the second part of or episode 6. And also at the same time Charlotte kind of acquires Lady Isabella else at the same time of like, I can help you bring her down, but this is what we have to do, and go find my mother, and then she'll be able to like. It brings all of these women together because we all know now that Emily is involved with Nancy and Margaret and that whole storyline that comes with it as well. But I think that this show, we can debate about this, that this show portrays the idea of this being something that Charlotte has to do as to one, because it's like being named, because the idea of the naming of the heir to Golden Square is a big thing that's been throughout at least the latter part of the show. And do you think that Lydia thinks that this is the last thing that she has to do to be named the heir of Golden Square? Because we all know that Charles is not going to go and try to procure a virgin. So it's like, if Charlotte can do it, I'm pretty much just like, this is a done deal, because we see in the other part of this is that Lydia is spying on Charles and Emily with some nice men, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
But what do you think?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's a good point of her, considering Charlotte being the heir, because yeah, Charles, even on his best day with his mom, he's not a good candidate to take over that business, which is pretty successful. And, I don't think that he would be able to keep it on that level. So I think his mom knows that. But, on the same note, she still has that question of trust with Charlotte. And you see it at this point where she's considering showing her how to acquire a virgin, where she's pretty skeptical. Like, it's almost, yeah, like the last straw of, can she fully trust this girl to, teach her? Like, that's almost Lydia's deep dark secret. I mean, it is definitely, because that's what everyone's been trying to frame her for, and she's just been able to slip out of that noose. So I don't know. It's questionable, and yeah, like Charlotte has. I mean, you can see Charlotte is just disgusted by the idea, but she has to play her cards in order um, to get her in a position where she can, try and lock her up. And it has to be a harsh one like this. They tried before in the last couple episodes, we saw them try, and they just haven't been able to get Quigley because she's just got too many connections. So this is sort of going to be their big chance to do it. and Charlotte's got like money hidden away, and it's like, you know, she's ready. She's like, there was gonna be my chance. This is gonna be my chance, you know?
Yeah. I don't know. I agree. Like this seems to be kind of a final test because I think Lydia really, really wants to keep Charlotte on and kind of take her on because it seems like that would be the next best thing to having Margaret.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like, you know, since Margaret didn't stick around and Lydia is miffed for whatever reason. And it just seems like that's the best way to get back at Margaret while ensuring that she knows that Golden Square will be taken care of the way she would want it to be. No one's going to change it when she finally kicks the bucket and takes over. She wants it to keep running the way that she did it. And so she's trying to mold Charlotte. And I think this is kind of a test to see if she can mold Charlotte and Charlotte will just jump whenever she says.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like jump. It's like how high, and then it's like she does
Exactly.
it. Like, it's kind of one of those. And Charlotte really develops. Like she's been a developing character, but she really in these these 2 episodes, like you can see that she's almost at her mental point of like, okay, we can strike now. We just have to do it. In terms of because of the whole event that's coming in at the end of episode 5, it's like that they strike up the plan to fake out this buying of a virgin, which she obviously goes to Lady Isabella about, which her whole storyline we can talk about in a moment, because of the big reveal that comes, which Johnny did predict. If you go back, Johnny did say.
Johnny did said say it like flat out, like he exactly. I was just like, my lips are zipped.
But yeah, we got so we have that whole thing going on, and it's the basically she will like you and I will be rid of her. We just have to work together to do this. And Lady Isabella asks for money. She gets the money that she wants. This also shows us that women had no control of money, no matter how much they had. And they want to basically Lady Isabella comes to Margaret and she's like, what are you doing here? Like even Mr. North, when he enters the door, it's like, are you lost? And they strike up the plan to obviously buy the virgin, and then obviously it goes disarray because, you know, this plan was never actually going to work because, you know, this is TV and not all plans, especially well thought out plans, pan out all the time.
Yeah, we still got 3 more episodes, so obviously this was not going to work out.
Exactly. And a whole other season. So yeah, this is not how it worked out. And yeah, because they end up having I can never remember his name, but he is
Webster.
Yes, basically put as a stand-in for a aristocrat type of sorts, and obviously this doesn't work out because, you know, the plan never works. And it's interesting to see how they wanted to, because, you know, the show does pretty well, like in the other storyline with the Scanwell storyline, talk the representation of diversity and the fact that majority of the people in that room were white, and then that the person that won out happened to be a person of color, but then quickly recounted and was like, nope, you're not allowed to basically and give the money to, or gave the person, not the virgin, to the Fitzwilliam, is just one of those things where it makes you obviously so angry that there's the people, because the diversity has been such a topic of this show. With Harriet, you know, Johnny's favorite character in this show, and Mr. North. So it's, how do you think that they handled that aspect of this show, like with that moment of being like, oh, so you basically stole this money, even though like they thought they were able to see through the fact, or think it was Lydia who was able to see through the fact that this wasn't actually his money, and like
they
that,
had the necklace that he says he won in the card game, but it was
Isabella's necklace.
Mhm.
Didn't her brother recognize it?
Yeah. And it seemed like as soon as that the guy showed up, they, you know, she's like asking him, "Oh, what's your business that you're in?" And he says coffee and that kind of thing. It's almost like she has like a bit of a mocking tone to her voice, because there is like racism present at that time, but it was kind of like Charlotte was meant to like give him a little bit of credibility or something like that. But I think that Quigley could just smell that something was fishy about the whole situation. But I don't think that, I think they play it well. I think they do it tastefully because they have the aspect. I don't know if it's played out too much quite yet, but they do touch on it later with Mr. North being like a free man. He was born a free man in England and that kind of thing. So there is like the difference. And they do even touch on it a little bit more later in the season. We'll see a little bit more. So probably next week we'll revisit this topic. But it's interesting. They do have sort of there's even, kind of diversity in the racism and diversity in like the slavery. It's just kind of a weird thing in comparison to like American slavery, I guess, or that which we've learned about, where there weren't free men. I mean, there were in the North, but I mean, it was still a dangerous time for anybody that was a free Black man or woman at that time. So
I like how it's kind of layered, like depending on which class and who you're around. So if you're with Margaret and people on Greek Street, they don't really bat an eye at Mr. North. Whereas when you start getting up, like you said, where Quigley was kind of giving him the side eye, you know, in the higher echelons of society, you start seeing that subtle but still there bit of racism.
Yeah, and you could almost see that too, that he was made to be out of place, especially during the bidding process, where because the affluent white men are able to bid higher and higher and higher, and you could see that he didn't want to. Like, you could see that Charlotte was like, "Oh no, this is gonna go very high, and I don't know if we have enough money for this to make it look like he also has enough money." So like, they played it well enough. Like, they didn't obviously make it overt, but they didn't also make it too, like, almost not cliche, but like something along the lines of where they didn't pull so much from this that it's like make you upset. What?
Charlotte gave that whole situation away anyway. She was the one that was acting like so nervous and just being super sketchy. So like she did not handle that.
When she panicked, I wanted to throttle something.
I know, you're just like, shut up, just like
I'm like, really, all the crap that you've done and gone through, and now is when you break.
Yeah, like, come on.
It's like,
and then there's like, oh, go ahead. The creepy scene with like, what's his face talking about, like, taking a virgin and like
the delight of a virgin or whatever.
Yeah. She's like, don't you want a real woman?
God, he's a creeper.
Yeah. He really is. Like, he's like, oh, it makes your skin crawl.
But yeah, like, because it's just like, oh, like there's like, but the way that the actor portrays it as well, like, you have to commend that, because like anything, like, you can be like, oh, that, like, yeah, the believability factor is pretty high.
That guy's been in quite a few things, and he's in The Witcher, and all of that. But I don't know. Now I have this permanent kind of creeped out factor by him, because it's not just this virgin thing; it's worse. It gets more. So
yeah, well, and also too,
his portrayal is phenomenal.
With actors specifically, if it's usually the first thing that you see a certain actor in, you always like go back to that character. Like, and you sometimes get typecast as that type of character. Like, even though most people are gonna be like, oh, this is so like such an answer for us to talk about, but it's like certain people, specifically actors from Game of Thrones, will always be known as that character and known for that style of acting that was done in that role. I.e., Kit Harington will always be known as the brutish, like like complaining guy on Game of Thrones that says "Ma Queen" 50,000 times in his last season of the show. Like, that's going to be that type of character. So it's not surprising that this actor for you, Erin, is going, even though he's done other projects, is known as that type of character that you first saw them as. So it's like one of those things. And so it's okay. Worst creepier, Mr. Fitz or Peter Baelish? Ooh.
Mr. Fitz.
I have to go with Mr. Fitz.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
part of his creepiness is that he knows he can act like a complete slime ball, and no one will ever tell him, like, put him in his place. No one will ever tell him no, and he just takes it to new heights just because he can't be reined in, whereas at least Baelish was a little bit more under wraps about it.
You think about that scene with Baelish and Cersei when he's like, knowledge is power, and then she's like, you know, she gets the Kingsguard to like, she's like, oh, kill him, and he's like, she's like, no, power is power. Like, that's that guy, you know, power is power. He can do whatever he wants. You know, he could have Peter Baelish killed, you know, with the snap of his finger. So that's kind of the difference.
Yeah, like that Cersei scene, if I remember correctly, it's like to cut his throat, where he's like, wait, no, stop, and then it's like step back 3 paces, turn around and shut your eyes, and it's like power is power, because he's trying to say that knowledge is power. And then also chaos is a ladder, you know, that whole thing. But yeah, Mr. Fitz, like, just based off of the fact that the big revelation from this episode is that not only did Lady Isabella have a child, which we kind of knew about from the last couple of episodes, but she had a child with her brother. So we have more incest. Why does every show that we pick seemingly have incest, minus Stranger Things? Like, come on.
Yeah.
That's about it. Like, come on. Yeah, so incest is now in not Golden Square, wherever they live. I can't remember.
I don't remember.
I don't know where they live. Yeah, they're in just a manor somewhere.
Yeah, some manor somewhere. But yeah, that's pretty. I didn't think that Harlots would go the incest route, but here we go.
Yep, and it was super creepy. He basically, you know, he gets the virgin. And then he goes home and basically brags about it to Isabella because, you know, he figures out that they have the necklace and he's like, well, that's my grandmother's necklace. And so, you know, he's already been watching her enough and seeing that she's been, you know, making plans with Charlotte. And then she's, you know, he's there when Charlotte gets in trouble and, you know, she's making plans with this, you know, this black guy. So basically he's like, I want to know why my sister's like, you know, conspiring with whores and blacks. Sorry, that's really offensive, but that's what she said. That's what he says. So
it's the line.
You're speaking as like the character, so
it's like it's hard to say. It's hard for those words to come out. I'm sorry, but but yeah. So it's just you know, and then he basically like tackles her and he's like, you know, I had that virgin, I got that virgin, and you know, but you're still the finest that I've ever had. And she's just like, she like tries to fight him off, but he's just awful. He's like, yeah. And he still doesn't even know that the secret that she's keeping, he knows that she's keeping a secret about something. He just doesn't know what, but the secret is that, yeah, when he raped her when she was young, she got pregnant. And then it sounds like he kind of made a mention of that he had left for a period of time. so it must have been like he raped her and then he had to leave to go do whatever.
France. He went to France for
Yeah, I assumed he was fighting in France.
Yeah. And then during that time, she must have had the child and sent it to, into fosterage or what have you. Yeah. And so he never knew a thing about the child, and that's her big secret. And so she doesn't want her brother to know about the child because he's just a disgusting creeper. And now, well, they haven't really elaborated much on the daughter, but they will in the next couple episodes. So I won't spoil it.
You do bring up the daughter like they will bring her up more, I'm assuming, in those next. I think it's in the next step. Well, they have to if they're making her such a prominent character.
Yeah. Well, basically, if you think about the time frame, they haven't introduced the daughter yet, but if you think about the time frame from when he might have raped her, the daughter is now, when they introduce her, she's a young woman. She's like a teenage girl. So her mom is extra terrified of him having any exposure to her because she's been in secret this whole time, and her mom hasn't even had any exposure to her. She hasn't, been there to be a mother because she's been trying to protect her in the only way that she knows how. So yeah, it's a rough situation.
Yeah. And you're just like, I don't know how this is going to play out. Yeah, it's one of those situations where you're like, I don't know how this is going to play out, but you know that it's going to be a situation where you're like, oh no.
Yeah, there's no way it can go positively. So
yeah, that guy's making, he's using his power to his advantage, and he's trying to make it really clear to his sister that he's the one with the power. No matter what happens, he's the one. He's gonna win. So, yeah.
And yeah, but we'll look forward to the daughter in the final 2 episodes of season 2. And I think that's kind of a lot of the Isabella stuff. But going back to Charlotte for a minute, I forgot about this until I rechecked my notes. But we have basically the chokehold that Charlotte puts Quigley in near the end of episode 6, I want to say.
Oh, that was fantastic.
And luckily enough that Margaret shows up and is like, what are you doing? Like, you could have killed her. But it's like, no. There's a reason why she's kept alive.
It's a funny little chain of events that happens because Cherry, that's like, the little Cherry, she's like, she basically goes from, she's spying on Emily and the other girls overhearing their conversation. So what she's been doing is spying for Quigley. So she turns around and runs over to Quigley's, and she's like, your daughter, your son is, or Emily and all of them, they're basically conspiring against you and Charlotte. Charlotte's the glue that holds them all together, is what she says. So, and Quigley at this point was trying to kind of make nice with Charlotte, kind of trying to smooth things over, but then Cherry shows up and she tells her that. So Quigley goes in and she tries to like strong arm her. She tries to use that strong pimp hand.
Oh, that backfires.
Sure, you don't mess with a Wells woman, all right? Because they'll whoop your fucking ass. We're from the streets. So not from Covent. We are from Covent Garden. Where are we from? I don't know, but we're tough. All right, that's all.
Greek Street.
We're from Greek Street. All right, but before that. But yeah, no. So she basically Charlotte grabs her, snatches her old ass up, and tackles her down onto the floor. And she tells Cherry, "Go get my mom." So Cherry busts out of there, and she goes and runs over to go grab Margaret. And isn't Emily over there? Is that what happened? I think she's like, "How do you know that's not happening?" or whatever. And so then Cherry's busted because you can see her little like trying to like figure out what kind of bullshit lie she's gonna come up with. So yeah, Emily kind of like gets her in the corner and she's like, "All right, listen here, you're mine now. So,
Do you
but
think?
yeah.
Do you think why Cherry start spying? Do you think it was just over the whole Charles jealousy thing, or like what the hell's up with that? Because she seems to flip really easy. I mean,
Well, I think it's because she doesn't like Emily, and I
right.
think she sees that she could have a better opportunity like with, siding up with Quigley, like if she could drive the wedge, because I think that's what she says to Quigley. She's like, I'll be, let me drive a wedge between them, and then I'll bring, your son home to you, and you, take care of me, kind of thing. So I think that's the angle she's going at, because she knows that Emily's never going to give her those kind of benefits. Emily doesn't like her. I love Cherry. I think she's the cutest little thing.
I was just thinking about it when I was rewatching these episodes, and I was thinking, okay, so Cherry wants to, kind of have Charles to herself. She doesn't like Emily. I get that, but like, if she breaks up Charles and Emily, and Charles goes back to his mom, Cherry's not going to be allowed to work at Quigley's, I don't think. Quigley has a very set type of girl that she's after, and Cherry doesn't physically fit what Quigley likes to have her girls look like. And so Cherry would just kind of be out on her ass, it seems like. I don't know, it just was weird to me.
Yeah, but then I think it's like how Quigley treats Rasilisk, like how it's just like gives them money for like odd jobs and such.
It might be like that, and also I think that Cherry realizes that between, if it's going to be a war between Emily and Quigley, that probably Quigley's going to win. Like, especially after she sends those Goonies over to the house, which that we need to discuss. But yeah, basically she sends some Goonies over to the house. There's a couple of guys that show up over at Emily Lacey's house, and they get sent off, into the rooms, and they start trashing the house. And Nancy gets a hold of one of them, and she starts beating him with her switch. and she's like,
grabs those animals.
Yeah, exactly. And it turns out that Quigley sent him over. So I think that, because Emily gets terrified when she hears that Quigley's the one that sent them. And then also, I think when Cherry hears it, she realizes what kind of, like, how deep, how, like, the bad blood between them goes, So I think Cherry's just trying to, like, find the best opportunity that she can find, really. Because her opportunities are limited anyways, because she doesn't have as many prospects as a harlot as it is. So yeah, she has to kind of do other things, like how Margaret last episode, told her, well, you're not really what I'm looking for, but if you can, like, find girls for me and that kind of thing. And then from Quigley, she brings her information and that kind of thing. She's just small and she's discreet. People don't think much of her, so she's good at acquiring information. So I think she's just doing what she can to make a buck.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's hard out here for a harlot.
Of any stature. Also, hello to Apparently Human, who's also, that is Catherine Harding. Go check out her channel. She just started up her channel, so go check that out. I recommend it. So yeah, it's just awesome. And yeah, so go support Catherine, because we all like to support people in our community as much as big as it can be sometimes. And also, while you're at it, go check out Casey's channel, House Lorebridge. Go check that out, and also go check out Braavosi Broadcasts and watch all of their videos. Even if you've watched them already, watch them again, because why not? Because they're awesome. So you gotta go rewatch. Just do a marathon rewatch.
Kaci just did a Dracula overview, which it took me a couple of days to watch that because I hadn't watched the series yet. So, like, I started your video and then I was like, had to pause it and come back a couple of days later and finish it. But yeah,
it's a little spoilery.
Dracula was really good. If you guys haven't watched it, dude, Mackenzie, you should do episode club on Dracula actually, because that shit was good.
Yeah.
Good as hell.
Yeah, I'm trying to debate on what show to do next, and based off of the drop that we got about Westworld, it kind of fits in the timeline actually for when we wrap this. So I'm like thinking about like when do we do this? Because I miss, like, not that I missed it, but we like Vikings. It's like always on Wednesday nights. I was like, oh, I can't really do Vikings because it's on Wednesday nights at like 10 o'clock. So it's like, can't really do that. And even though I can predict kind of what happens in that show based off of certain things, like if I think it was a video on Justin Top Shelf Fandom's channel, I think, or it might have been on Johnny's channel where I predicted something that happened in season 5, and ever since then Justin sometimes calls me the seer for that show. But anyway, so it's like thinking we may do but we're trying to figure out what we're doing, but it'll become much clearer probably next week. But
Dracula's only 3 episodes, so just saying.
They're long though. They're like an hour and a half each or so.
They're really good. If you haven't watched it, Mackenzie, do it.
With my free time now, I'll make sure to do that because I've gotten less free time now because now I work until 4 every day for my internship. So with my time, I'll use it wisely and try and watch that. But we're going back to the shower time. We have the whole thing with Cherry is quite interesting, and how she's just like, let me just do this, and when she gets caught, you're like, she's like, oh, like she kind of like shuts down almost. Like I got
her
caught.
Little face. She's like, oh shit. She looks like the face you would have when you're like 8 and your dad catches you like doing something bad. You're just like,
Yeah, just totally busted.
Yeah.
And then we have certain things too that is just like with that whole storyline with Emily and Charles and how they want to develop their house to be not exotic is kind of like a widespread term for this, but like a different house compared to the standard houses that we've come to know in the show, like at Golden Square with Quigley and with Margaret Wells, how for Margaret Wells for a time had Harriet, but you know how that all turned out. So then it just moved to a different, back to what it was before Harriet showed up. And it's that whole storyline is quite interesting to like look at because we're again looking at majority of those characters at a different light as well, and like the exotic nature of all of these characters. And if Johnny was here, he would complain about Harriet and how she's been acting in these 2 episodes because man, does she bother me too. Like Jesus.
She has been kind of a pest in these episodes, but I love it in the very beginning of episode 5 where like Emily and Nancy and Margaret are all drinking in the living room, and then Harriet comes in and she's like, keep it down. And Margaret's like, never mind, I'll just leave. I'm gonna go home to my man. And like just really rubs it in her face. So yeah, that was pretty good. I like
sassy Margaret. I like sassy Margaret.
Oh, I love Margaret. She is my spirit animal.
We can tell.
Based off of your avatar. Yeah, and that whole because they bring up also the idea of having the bully at the door, which is a thing that kind of carries through. That's why again, I can never remember his name, was basically hired on to be the bully because you all know Charles isn't going to be that for this household because he's too soft. Like if you push him over, he will fall. So You
and it's
gotta,
yeah,
soft and jiggly. Him trying
Well,
to
yeah, when
punch
they
that pillow is like the
when they had
saddest
those
little
guys
thing.
attack and Nancy had to go after him because Charles was not going to be of any use physically.
He
Mhm.
runs just like a little bitch. He's like, he runs into the tavern and he's like, Mr. North. He's like Harriet Badman. Like he's just like a little boy. I mean, he's cute and endearing. He's just, he's just a child, and it's so weird that he
He
came
is
up
just a
so
man child.
gently. Yeah, it's sad.
Yeah. Too much love. Mother's love is
Mhm.
that. Oh, and indulged
is-
by your mother.
Yeah, and it's so weird that his mom is Lydia because she's such a crazy, like harsh character. And then, she has this son who's just like a giant man baby. So it's just a weird thing. It's like, how did he come up with such a hard ass mom? She's so hard on these, her whores, and does like really ruthless stuff. And yet her son is just such a big softie.
Yeah.
He's a little sugar piggy.
Maybe.
I watched.
Oh, go ahead, Kaci.
Oh, I was just gonna say I watched a documentary. Oh, probably a few months ago or so on the geisha in Japan, and they mentioned that if geisha had a daughter, she would just kind of be raised to, kind of take over the business that everyone was doing, because it was one of the few female-owned businesses that women could have at the time. But if they had a son, he would just kind of turn out to be kind of lazy and useless, basically, because there wasn't a place for him, because it was a woman's world and he didn't have a role to play. So I almost wonder if Charles kind of fell prey to that a little bit.
Probably.
Yeah.
And maybe that's
I don't
some
know.
sort of historical influence this show
I
kind
watch
of
way
had.
too many documentaries. I'm sorry.
No, that's a good point. Like, I
Mm.
mean, I guess he was just surrounded by women constantly who were probably like, fawning all over him because he was like the only little boy in the house. So probably his whole life was just snuggling up to pretty,
Just spoiled.
yeah, like pretty dressed women and eating his little sugar piggies and just like, yeah, being spoiled.
Yeah, like when him and Cherry are playing with those pigs, and then he's like, "I like Emily Pig," and it's just like, oh Jesus. And yeah, Emily, I think it's in this episode, in one of these two episodes, she drops the bomb that apparently she's carrying his child, which she says may stop the whole Lydia Quigley going after them. And it's like, you think a grandchild is going to stop this woman? Really? It's like, no, it's a different type of thing. It'll just twist and manifest itself into something else. She'll even be more controlling. She'll be like, all right, well, you get to stay here and lock you in this room until let's see how long this lasts. Like, like what some people would do with their children, or to see how long that would last. Yeah, there's just quickly, and like these two episodes make me just go, bah, with like how good they are in terms of how they mix very well together. And they have, let me see if I'm missing anything. And yeah, it's also in this whole situation, which is connected to Margaret as well, is Lucy's kind of storyline, because we learn from Rasilisk that Lord Fallon is the person that killed the previous Chief Justice, which now Justice Hunt has taken over for. And this sent Margaret down a spiral to get Lucy the heck away from Lord Fallon, but Lucy's not having it. So it's one of those situations where...
Well, the other problem is that Lord Fallon decided to, they were having a nice little romantic time at home, and they decided to smoke a little opium and get a little honest with each other. And Lucy went ahead and divulged that she was the one I mean, she skimmed lightly over the fact that she was the one that had killed George Howard. And so she told, and he, of course, was super turned on by that. And, he wasn't disapproving, but that is a fine piece of information for him to have to tuck into his little pocket there. So, yeah, basically, the next morning, Lucy kind of sneaks away because she's like freaked out that she told him that. So she wants to go and talk to her sister, and her sister's locked up right now because of the whole virgin sneaking out, kind of trying to do that whole thing. She's grounded. So yeah, so Lydia won't let her talk to her, and then Fallon shows up to get Lucy because he's keeping her really under lock and key. And then Rasselas sees him and tells Charlotte, and Charlotte's like, oh, we'll go tell my mom. So he sneaks off, but one of the girls hears Rasselas and Charlotte kind of conspiring. So she runs out, tells Lydia, and tells Fallon. So Fallon's like, oh shit, well, I gotta go kill this guy now. So he's like, they have this really intense kind of chase scene, and it ends really badly because somebody gets caught in the crosshairs.
Well, we can kind of talk about it because it's the big thing that starts the next episode of episode 6. But yeah, because the big question that I was going to pose for this is, we're all ladies here, most of us in the chat too, unless Danny McKay is still floating around. The question is, and it's almost like the thing of if you knew that the person, this is like a relationship question almost. It's like, if you knew the person that you were with, you knew deep down was a bad person, but you didn't want to believe it, and then your mother or some adult figure in your life is like, this person is really bad, we must get away from them. It's like, would you act like Lucy and be like, no, go away, no, go away, mom, or actually be like, I believe you? Because we have to remember, I think Lucy's 17, maybe 18 at
Something
this time,
like that.
The teenage rebellion. It's like, do you go with mom or do you stay? Even though this person is not so good. What do you think?
As a 34-year-old woman, I would say, listen to your mom. Or listen to, I wish Charlotte would have just got her head out of her ass and been there for her sister, but listen to your mom. But as a 17-year-old or as a 19-year-old, who was in that situation, no, I didn't fucking listen to my mom. I was like, no, I'm fine. I know exactly what I'm doing. And then I stayed with a shitty boyfriend for 4 years. So you have to, these are things that you have to live and learn. And Lucy's in a weird position because the alternative is she goes back home and is a harlot, and she hates it. She hates being a harlot. She does not like, servicing these men. She doesn't like that lifestyle. It doesn't make her feel good. It makes her feel greasy and gross. She's not into it. So, in the contrast, she is the mistress of this household. She has servants looking after her. She has money. Yeah, Lord Fallon's a little bit controlling and kind of keeps her in the house and stuff, but if she wants to go somewhere, like he said, you can take my carriage, you can do this, that, and the other. Yeah, he's probably going to have her watched and that kind of thing. But in comparison, I don't know. What's the better option?
Didn't Lord Fallon, I don't know if it was in this episode, but I think he says, I want to know, even if, every single thing that she does, including sneeze or something like that.
Yeah.
It's or if she coughs, you have to let me know. And I'm that's kind of crazy. But, if you're getting effectively paid $500 a year, or £500, sorry, a year to just be with this person, it's quite interesting. But That's okay. Don't worry about it. That was me too. She says in the chat, she says, if I was Lucy's age 15, 16, I'd be all about Lord Fallon because they do work well. And she also says that she wasn't cool enough to date any bad boys and murderers.
Well, they also, they are kind of, like they're a decently matched couple. I mean, they both can be pretty honest with each other, even about the like bad things they've done, and they can understand each other, and they're fairly compatible. They have chemistry, so it's a weird dynamic. Like, we know he's not a good person, but I mean, is he? He's not a good person. But he is kind of hot, let's be honest. I mean, I can't even say that I am not attracted to him a little bit. So
well, and also like when her mother's kind of micromanaged her and kind of coddled her and smothered her whole life, then sells her, which Lucy wasn't down with. She just did it because, the house needed it. And then her mom thought, okay, well, we did that. You're not a virgin anymore, so we can just put you to work, more or less. Yeah. And Lucy didn't want to. She wasn't really ready. And Margaret didn't recognize it and just continued to smother her and treat her like another Charlotte. And this is really the first time that Lucy has been able to kind of breathe without Margaret hovering.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, if I were Lucy, I wouldn't have listened to her either. Like, get away, woman. Let me... God, I've been gone for 2 weeks and you're trying to ruin everything for me.
Yeah.
Stereotypical 15-year-old, like, Mom, stop. Like, kind of thing.
I'm with you, Erin. I didn't listen to anybody about boys either.
It's just something you have to, you have to learn these things for yourself. It doesn't matter who you are. I sit here, I dread my daughter being 17, 18, 19 years old because she's gonna have her. I talk about it with her dad all the time. I'm like, I don't know who her shitty boyfriend's going to be, but he's going to be someone, and I don't want to know him.
There will be a shitty boyfriend.
There will be, and it's just something you're gonna have to ride out for, until they make the choice of whatever they're gonna do. Yes. So that's like
my mom has said it before. She's like, don't date. Like, I don't know where she got it from. She might have came up with it herself or she found it on the internet. But it's like, don't date inappropriate men because you may fall in love with them. That's like the whole thing. That
they're so much more easy to fall in love with.
Yeah, exactly.
I think you can fix that.
Yeah, it's one of those situations that they have, and with this also too, it's because the veil is almost still there as well, because Lucy probably views Fallon as like not as like George Howard, but like that level of like, oh, like he's basically mine, George. She's like, yeah, my first something about like how she's the first success, like that's her first effective like keeper, and that he's like treating her well. It's like he treats me differently than he maybe treats everybody else. And
that was kind of a hot scene, to be honest, where he was like, he asked her, I mean, they're laying in bed together and he's like, who was your first? And she's like, the stable boy of my choosing, which I thought was freaking, like, yeah, girl, like that was pretty good. But then but he asked her, well, who's the first that's given you pleasure? And she says him. And he's like, well, then I'm your first. And let's be honest, ladies, that's the truth, okay? Because we all like messed around with some stupid little teenage boy that didn't give a fuck, didn't know what the hell they're doing, okay? The first man to give you pleasure is your first. Men should be giving you pleasure always. Yeah. They can get their pleasure just fine and easy, okay? Women, we deserve these things.
Yes.
Yes, Mom.
Yes. The character of, well, these two characters in general, but specifically the character of Lord Fallon, like we talked about in season 1 when the character was introduced, is the overarching big bad of this show so far. Like Lydia Quigley, yeah, sure, she's a bad person. We all know that. That's the overt big bad of this show. That everybody loves to hate, almost, or hate to love, whatever you want, however you want to approach it. But the fact that Lord Fallon literally hangs out in the shadows, and Lucy was when we met her in this show, was the naive person who was protected, the delicate flower. And the fact that so many people, because we do this show every week, I've gotten recommended video, like there'll be people who make compilation videos or like those fan style videos of these two. So there's obviously people that love these two people together, but it's such a bad thing to like enjoy it. And like we all know TV shows that do it. Like, hey, like everybody supports certain characters to put them together, even though we all know that it's such a bad thing to do. And it'll be interesting to see how this storyline moves forward, because of how she kind of brings that out of him as well. Like the whole carriage ride in the park, like that was something that we probably did not expect happen, and like all of these other things.
They do have. I love the Hades and Persephone overtones of their story. Like it sort of just tingles my innards. But I just like it's just kind of a fun thing to like play off of, and they do like a really great job with it. She does have a interesting pull over him, even though he is sort of a powerful man. It's like she says when they're sort of having that conversation with each other, he says that, or he's trying to get her to say, why did you say you're a Spartan? And she's like, well, your kind stick together. I know that really I'm a Helot. And that's because she's of, a different class. But really, she has a lot of power and control over him just with being herself. She doesn't even really have to try. She just has that sweet, innocent, Persephone-like nature about her. And she's very, she's almost comfortable in her own skin at this point. Like she's comfortable with the fact that she knows she doesn't like being a harlot, but she's good at like sort of playing this game with him, and she's got him wrapped around her finger.
She's figured out how to play the cat and mouse game with him, and she likes it.
Mm-hmm. He's sort of probably the first man she's kind of figured out how to work, and she's working him, and she has a good set of advantages from it. So
yeah, because even the whole how before her station changed in terms of like, well, first she was going to be with Lord George Howard. I was about to say Lord Howard, but no, that's not right. It's with George Howard, and how pretty much she was able to manipulate the situation to move up to one rung higher, and be like, no, not George Howard. I want Lord Fallon. So you have like more control over what's happening, and you can see how those wheels are turning in her head, especially like when she's talking to Margaret, and she's like, when Margaret comes through the door and she's like, what are you doing here? And it's like, oh, I want to speak to you in private. And she's like, this is Lord Fallon's house. We're not supposed to speak in private. Like she's taking it to that whole thing of like, this, and I just live here basically for free, even though he pays money. But it's like one of those situations where it's like, it's not my house, even though I live here. And it must be hard to like watch those scenes sometimes from like the perspective of like, not as a mother. Obviously I'm not a mother, but it's like the whole thing of like acting so stupid, and it's like you can pick, like, at least everybody here also can picture that idea of like, we all know that this is a bad character, but it's just like, gotta let it play out for themselves. And I feel like once that revelation really comes up, then it's gonna implode and something bad's gonna happen. But
yeah. And then he takes it to the next level with once she shows up and she's like, Lucy's like, anything you have to say, you can, say right in front of all of us. And Margaret says that this is the guy that killed the justice. And then after, he's like, well, you need to leave. I mean, he's really polite about it, but he's like, you need to leave now. But then he pulls her aside and he's like, I know about George Howard. So if you try to say anything about the justice, then I will go and rat out Lucy and you'll be fucked. And so she, Margaret, she's not letting somebody pull one over on her.
Especially when it comes to her kids, too.
Exactly. Yeah. So she goes, well, we'll get into that. We'll get into that.
Basically how this moves on is that as we come to the end of the episode, end of the episode is that, or no, the Scanwells is the big thing before we go to near the end of episode 6. So the Scanwells, pretty much all of that is that Quigley is like, what are you doing? Every time she runs into Mrs. Scanwell, and Amelia is going over and seeing Violet and Justice Hunt and that whole storyline. And basically it's been proposed, the idea has been proposed in the mind of Mrs. Scanwell, Johnny's favorite lady of the show, minus Mrs. Quigley, that her daughter should marry Justice Hunt because of the fact that Lydia Quigley knows that Amelia is not into men necessarily, but women, and that she can't handle that because, she's very religious, and religious people of this time, and still religious people today, still don't like people who are on the are from LGBTQ plus community, and this kind of creates a whole slurry of things, which leads to the end of that sort of sequence, which is obviously we see Rasilisk being chased by Lord Fallon because snitches get stitches. Literally.
In this case, yeah.
Indeed.
And Lord Fallon mistakenly stabs Amelia instead of Rasilisk, and it just implodes this whole situation. And we all find out that eventually, but it leads on to this whole dynamic. And did you actually think that, I don't know if it's this episode, but I'm assuming that Amelia survives this episode, or this next couple of episodes, but it's would the show be bold enough to kill off another girl in such a violent way? As I know, we all know that Lord Fallon killed Kitty. It's not the strangest thing out there to believe, because she was the last person we saw her with on this show. So it's did you think two women kills from Lord Fallon was too much, and that's why they probably are going to keep her alive? Or do you think, oh no, they just kill her off anyway?
I could see it going either way. I mean, they might want to emphasize just how bad of a person Lord Fallon is, but they also might not be comfortable killing off another one of our girls. But we'll have to wait and see.
It would be really tragic too. It's definitely a contrast character to Kitty, because Kitty, she's a harlot. She's got a daughter. She's been around the block. She's a hardened woman. And then Amelia, on the other hand, is just this chaste, innocent girl who, she's had an interesting life. But even when her mother says to her, when they're talking about Rasilisk, she's like, I don't like you to surround yourself with these unnatural company or whatever. And she's like, well, the Lord teaches us to surround yourself with everyone and spread the love and knowledge or what have you. That's what her whole deal is. So and it's just like Jesus, where he used to hang out with like the poor and wash their feet and what have you. So she's, in her mind, she's doing that same lifestyle that Jesus kind of preaches about or whatever, but she doesn't realize the danger she puts herself in. And poor little Amelia, she's just a sweetheart. It's really hard to see her be the victim in this situation. So
Yeah.
I would be heartbroken if she died just because she is so innocent and just wants to be everybody's friend and just wants to love everybody.
Just wants to get along. And yeah, it's like, and even though we both know that this couple wouldn't be like a true couple, they, like, in the true sense of the word, he is still like the man that would be able to protect her and like pretty much effectively let her have her own life. I don't think he's like the type of man that's like the other type of men in the show where it's like, or we would have in the show that like want to have children and all of this, that, the other thing. Like he's been pretty relaxed with this. Like even I think it's like in episode 5 or something that when he comes and he's like, we make a right, like, and he stutters over the word obviously because he has to stutter, but it's like a pair. Like they talk about them being together as like, and you know, ladies, we've done it. Like we all know about fake it till you make it. So she'll just fake the fact that she likes him because we're close to Violet. And I didn't mention it because I was too lost in our conversation, but I have looked in the chat and there's been talk about some Game of Thrones fanships in the chat. So we'll definitely have to re-talk about Game of Thrones again because you know.
Hey Mandy and hey AK and Otila and everybody in the chat.
Yeah, I think you'll really like this show if you want to watch it. It's pretty good. It's not very long either. They're like 8 episodes each season, so I think you'll like it.
Yeah, it's a good show.
But I think Mandy, I don't know if you've been watching Johnson videos, but I'm happy that you're that you enjoy that fandom or that part of the fandom.
She does, Mackenzie. Mandy likes John's fanfic. So you guys can nerd out on that.
Exactly. So yeah, I will make sure. Yeah, as you can tell, I like the fanfic. Those because you know, John Harris is just too damn easy, and it's like no, don't work like that.
John Harris is poop.
It's too Disney.
I don't want it.
I don't want it. And plus, you know, I'd go on a whole tangent about that anyway. But I think we've kind of covered the big broad strokes of the show, but how it comes to the end is that Margaret Wells makes the decision that that Lord Fallon needs to be met with justice, and that Justice Hunt will be fair, and that he cares for Amelia. So it's going to be one of those situations where it's like, what do we do? Do we go with the fact of like, well, if I reveal my secret, the secret that I know, which is that Lord Fallon was this way and killed the previous justice, that I know that my secret's also coming at the same time. So it's the big thing that's leading into the last 2 episodes is like, what is this the right choice that Margaret's doing? Is, well, she's going to have to take down Lord Fallon with her when she's taking her own fall. So it's one of those where you're just like, I don't know. What do you think? Like, this is extreme levels of mother's love. What do you think about that?
It was pretty, it was like the only thing that she, that she could think of to do to protect her daughter. It was her only card she had left to play, because it was in effect, like in essence, another way to go at Quigley. She's trying to just take care of everybody in one situation. So basically she goes to the justice, and she confesses to the murder of George Howard so that she takes the credit, she takes the fall for it so that Lucy can't. And then once she's safely, basically she confesses to it, and the justice is like really confused. He's like, you know the penalty for this, right? And she's like, yeah, I do. And so she basically, once she's behind bars, she's like, all right, I'm safe here. And then she says, she tells him what Lord Fallon did. And that is, Fallon can't touch her, can't blame it on Lucy, can't point the finger at her because somebody's already in jail for that. And immediately once she says that, you can see the justice like accept that look on her face. Like on his face, like his face kind of falls and he's just like sad because he knows that she just sacrificed herself for her daughter. He doesn't know necessarily that Lucy maybe killed George Howard, but he sees that she's taking the fall, that she's sacrificing herself. And he's like, well, what can I do for you? She's like, just be fair to my daughters, kind of thing. It was really sad.
I feel kind of bad. I feel bad for him. He's just like, poor bastard didn't know what he was getting himself into when he took the job.
Right? Yeah.
Poor man. Like, he's just like
in the middle of a cat fight with all these women.
Yeah.
It's like, I gotta deal with this, and all this and that, and oh my gosh.
And the corrupt justice system with the dude that Quigley was writing earlier. Like,
yeah, that just this show really, for all of its kind of craziness that goes on, it's obviously, like we've talked about many times before, it's a different pace on this show. But this show, oh man, you can like Johnny did. He made some theories about the secret, and it came true. So of course we recommend everybody watch this show because it's underappreciated. This show, I didn't know it existed until Erin told me about it. So go watch it if you haven't, because I know there's some people in the chat who haven't watched it really yet. So just go watch it. It's so fun.
It is. It's a good one. And it's just a fun watch. Like, it's got great costumes. It's got, just fun. Like, the characters are just fun, their language and their sassiness, just sassy women, something we all love and we all are.
Bye, Otila. Don't worry about it. Thank you for coming. It was awesome. But yeah, we kind of have this whole thing. And yes, next week we will be talking about the final 2 episodes of season 2, which will be interesting now that everything that happened with Margaret Wells in this episode. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, what did we think finally about this episode and your rating and all of that stuff that we usually do on the show?
Oh crap, I didn't think of any good little wording.
It might come to you, don't worry.
Hold on, let me think. I would first of all, I'm going to give these episodes, I'm going to say, they were really good. It was really action-packed. There's a lot of, like, stuff with Amelia. Like, that's really what these episodes were really centered around, was Amelia, because there was a lot going on with her between being proposed to by the justice to, being stabbed. It was a lot of craziness for her, and she's such a lovable character that we're all endeared to. It's really unexpected. So I would say I'm gonna give it 9 Amelia's impalements. I don't know.
True.
Yeah.
And yes. Kaci?
Oh, I agree. I did like the episodes. There were parts of them that frustrated me just because of the characters' poor decision making. Frankly, it wasn't anything wrong with the show. I was just frustrated with the characters acting stupid. But like we mentioned with Lucy, going for the bad boy when all of us are like, no, don't do it. But I think, oh shoot, what would I give them? I think I'd give them. How about 8.5 cherries?
That
That was
I love
perfect.
it.
And I think this episode, even though again this is coming back to Game of Thrones, which it always does. It's almost like Lucy kind of has, in some sense, it's like she is, for all intents and purposes, even though Sansa was never like this, but it's like she's kind of like looking almost sometimes at Lord Fallon, kind of like how Sansa did almost with Joffrey, in that like that aspect of like she can't see behind the whole craziness and the scariness that everybody else is like, this is very bad. Don't
Yeah.
like get this like this way, and it's one of those moments. And we all know how that ends. So probably Lord Fallon's time is short lived still in the show. Yeah, I think I would give this episode 9 teenage moments starring Lucy Wells. Typical teenage moments starring Lucy Wells. But yeah, I think that's about it. If we want to talk about anything, we can, because we kind of ended this. But yeah, I think or ended at least the formal part of episode club. If not, it's fine. But yeah, I think it's on Hulu is on. Hulu is on. Harlots is on Hulu. There we go. I was mixing the words together. Or you can find. There's ways to watch it online. Just look up Harlots and you'll be able to find it. That's okay. She likes Lord Fallon better than Joffrey. Yeah. I feel
Definitely.
it's like one of those situations. Mrs. Duncan the Tall. DC. Everybody's coming out. But yeah, Lord Fallon, he'll be an interesting character. Peter Griffin, you watched Tommen in 1917?
Oh yeah, that movie looks like it's pretty good.
I didn't realize that Tommen was in it.
He's one of the main actors, I think, in it too.
Whatever. He was in
How'd I miss
that movie The King that was on Netflix. Tommen was in that one too.
With
For a
Timothy
brief
Chalamet, yeah, with Henry
Yeah.
the Fifth, I think is
Fourth.
what it was.
Oh yeah, no, his father was the fourth. Yeah, he's the fifth. Yeah, you're right. Just
Yeah.
kidding.
That.
Yeah, that was a really good one. I liked that.
With Robert Pattinson as the
Yes, he
Dauphin.
was so great with the friggin' accent. Oh my god, he killed it.
The
He killed it.
Yeah, like that actor has gotten a lot more roles actually, and it's funny how he's played 2 characters in Game of Thrones, and yet no one seems to remember the first one he actually played. But it was a short-lived role. But
Odd little Lannister boy.
Yeah,
one of the cousins, and then now he's Tommen Baratheon.
Martin Lannister getting
kind of like how in Vikings pulled a similar thing of like having them as one actor play one character and then play a different character, but don't change their look at all. Basically, if you watch Vikings, then you know who I'm talking about. Basically, that it's like Ivar, his dead wife, is now another person's wife in the show. It's like so stupid, yet it's like so crazy. Anyway, but yeah, I'm trying to remember. And also, I don't know that I don't know if I would ever cover this because I haven't read the source material, but I've watched the movies that Lord of the Rings is actually having 2 Game of Thrones alumnus or alumni in their show.
Yes.
Benjamin Stark and the actor, I can never remember his name, but who played young Ned is in Lord of the Rings. So we should be sure to check that out because and the rest of them, I don't know who they are. They're nobodies to me, but they will be household names whenever Lord of the Rings does come on to Amazon.
Oh man,
I'm so excited for Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, I'm excited for that too. I'm honest, but you know what? I'm really excited for. I think coming out before Lord of the Rings is going to be Cursed on Netflix, and let me tell you, I'm getting ready to do some stuff on that. I just finished reading the book, and they're making a show out of it that's coming out this year. It's got Floki playing Merlin, Floki from Vikings.
The actor was
So
on Westworld. I can't remember his name in Westworld.
Gustav Skarsgård.
No,
Yeah,
like
I
the
am
actor
so
who plays. Yeah, he was also in Westworld in season 2. Can't remember
okay.
his Westworld character name though, but I'll get back to that because preparing for Westworld coming back.
Yeah, he's gonna have a big year then, because he's a badass. I love that guy. I mean,
Not Vikings. That's the thing. They left his character in Vikings in the most stupid way. But go check out Vikings. It's starting tonight, or like in 2 minutes from now.
where I left off in Vikings, Floki was still a badass, so I'm just gonna. That's where he'll always be in my mind. But yeah, no. But I mean, imagine that guy playing Merlin. Like, shut up! It's gonna be so good. I'm so excited. So
he would make a really good Merlin.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that show's gonna be really good. And yes, Peter Griffin, we have more Game of Thrones. House of the Dragon is reportedly going to come out in 2022. So.
Oh yeah, I saw that headline today.
Yeah. So. Theories now will abound about where this show is going to start. Well, let's start with Aegon and the sister wives, or it will start in the middle of Targaryen history. Who knows? But that's a discussion for another day. Like how we'll talk about Game of Thrones theories, because we haven't done one of those in a while. So we'll have these ladies on, and
we should have a little discussion day. Yeah, it's been a minute since we've sat around and shot the shit about Game of Thrones.
And talk about different fanships like Sansan and Johnsa and there's the people ship Jamie and Sansa. It's like all of these different
Jamie and Sansa? What?
Yes, there's literally videos on YouTube where people ship Jamie and Sansa.
Oh my god. I'm out of the loop.
Yeah, there's so many different ships that are on that, like, for that show. There's people who I've seen videos where people ship Daenerys and Sansa, and then like how they're like people use their anger towards each other as like sexual frustration and all of this stuff. Like it is just crazy.
I mean, I was always a light fan of the whole Sansa Marjorie.
Exactly, like it's like another level. And yes.
Oh my gosh.
One of those. And yes, we have to do another Derriere debate. As of right now, Sansa was the last person to win her round robin of Derriere debates, and she kind of beat out. I think the two other people that were the top ones were Marjorie and Khal Drogo were also in that, a bunch of other people. And if you haven't, I can't remember which one it was, but it's the second time, I think, that Johnny talks about Viserys having the best butt in Westeros, and you find out how twerking came into Lys. So yeah, we'll do a bunch of plans behind the scenes. We'll bring back more Derriere debates, Game of Thrones stuff, but for now, anything you want to talk about in terms of if you've got anything going on with your channels, if you've got something planned. I know, Kaci, you put out a new video about Dracula, so if you want to talk about that, go ahead before we sign off and leave these people to the rest of their Wednesday night.
Yeah, I did do a Dracula overview. I did opt to not do individual episode reviews. I've just been reading a lot. I'm obsessing over the Haunting of Bly Manor that's supposed to be coming to Netflix. It's likely sometime in the next year. It's the season 2 for the Haunting of Hill House. So I've been reading all the source material that's based off of. And it's a little bit more than I anticipated, but working on it. I got to get my good ghost stories in.
Mhm.
And then
That's your
rereading
jam.
Fire and Blood, of course. Like everybody is, I'm sure. But that's been about it for me, especially since who scrapped the idea for the Vampire Chronicles.
Bummer.
Wah, wah.
Wah, wah. Isn't that a CW show though? Or wasn't it? Or am I wrong
No,
on that?
that's
No, it
the
wasn't.
Vampire Diaries.
Oh, okay. What's Vampire Chronicles?
It's the Anne Rice series with like Interview with the Vampire and Queen of the Damned and the Vampire Lestat.
Shame on me. Okay, pretend I didn't say anything. CW.
I'll just whip you with my switches later. It's fine.
Yeah, thank you, Nancy. I deserve it. This is why we're best friends.
Bad girl.
Just delete that Erin said that in your mind, people, about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Never
Can we cut that? I know this is live. We're just gonna go back and edit that out.
Yeah, I can go clip that later. Don't you? But, yeah. Yes. So there's an astounding thing of we must do another Derriere debates. We will. I'll plan it. We'll plan it behind the scenes. If you want to be involved, message me or Erin about it, or even Kaci if you want to come on and do it. Like we'll do it because hey, we need to bring it back. It's been a while. I think we stopped it around Thanksgiving, so we'll bring it back now. But Erin, what you got going on? If you have anything that you're working on, or what else are you involved with?
Oh my gosh. Well, I don't really know right now. Everything's been up in the air. I just moved, so I've been kind of like everything's been a little bit crazy, but I did just finish reading Cursed and I want to do some stuff on that. So I've been doing a lot of studying on King Arthur and like, that sort of mythology and legends and lore and all that fun stuff. And just really trying to I've been kind of putting together just sort of like a big comparison with A Song of Ice and Fire and King Arthur and all of that. But of course, Cursed is going to be coming out, and that's going to be kind of the first good, big King Arthur thing we've had in a few years. So I'm pretty excited to do some stuff on that and share that story with you guys. I think that you will all like it a lot. So I'm hoping to kind of I think I'm going to do like some character breakdowns and stuff just so you guys can get to know them and hopefully be like a good resource for people while this show comes out and just have like some good information for it. So hopefully you guys are into that. Yeah. Hopefully you guys will be into that. And I will kind of start working on that for you and get some stuff together. So yeah, that's where my head's at. And then of course, Mackenzie, at some point we're gonna do these queens, but we were just talking, and I think we need to just like do it on the fly and not try and get too organized.
We'll pick a day and a time, and we'll show you visuals. If you don't know what these people look like, we'll show you visuals. Well, you know what Cersei, Daenerys, and Sansa look like, but for these other people, we'll show you some visuals. But yeah, we'll get that started, as well as our random Game of Thrones ship talk and all those other things. But before we go, again, we want to shout out to the patrons of the channel. We have Catherine Harding, Dark Mother, Nancy T, Katrin C, who's another great content creator on the YouTube. Go check her out. I'll make sure to link her into the description if I haven't already. She does videos on Sansa. She's had a lot of Sansa videos, so go check those out, as well as Fear the Walking Dead. And if you haven't met Katrin yet, go over to Johnny's channel where he did a whole podcast style video with Katrin about Sansa and women's role in Westeros. It was really good.
It was really good.
Yeah, make sure to check that out. And yeah, because on Patreon, I'm going to be putting up some videos while I'm in kind of transition mode because I'm doing a separate channel. So I'm putting the videos on there. A lot of them are bookish content. So this week, all of these videos will eventually come onto the new channel that I'm developing. But right now I've got a bookshelf tour being put up and a few other things. So yeah, got that going on. But anyways,
Awesome.
yeah, well, we've got some. I got some stuff planned, and we got all of these things that we're gonna go on. So thank you to everybody in the chat, AK Mrs. Duncan the Tall, AK Cece. We got Mandy, Sasuke, Peter Griffin, Kaci, also known as House Lorebridge, those in the chat. Erin is also in the chat. Fake Aria didn't show up today, but Braavosi podcast is still there.
Fake Aria is still getting her Wi-Fi set up in Braavos. They're slow in Braavos.
Otila Angel was also here. I can't scroll up, but so many people were here to join us tonight to talk about some crazy ladies. So we will see you all next week to talk about season 2 finale-ish episodes of Harlots. And with that, we'll see you all next week. But be sure to be nice, and as Catherine Harding would say, or now known as Apparently Human would say, stay hydrated, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Oh, man.